Good day, everyone, and welcome to episode 18 of Why You Do What You Do by the Building Industry Association's Bay Area Young Professionals. I'm your host, Mark Sherlock. Today's guest is the Vice President of Operations at Landsea Homes. Please welcome Luis Ferreira. Luis, great to have you on the show today. How you doing?
Doing well, Mark. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So I gave you a brief description of the format. We got 3 questions for you. Answer them however you like, and we'll get started.
Excellent.
So, Luis, how did you get to Vice President of Operations at Landsea Homes?
Fairly roundabout kind of path towards where or to where I got and how I got here. It all started approximately, 17 years ago, 2003. I was working for a company that provided chemicals and rolled steel and commercial dishwashers for institutions and restaurants. And I was an assistant branch manager, and I was leading a team there. And unfortunately, I had to let one of our team members go. And approximately 6 months later, this member reached out to me and said, "Hey, I joined a home building company, and I think you'd be a great fit." And I was surprised by that because, again, this is somebody who I had to let go, and those are never easy conversations to have. But this individual thought that I'd be a good fit. Home building was something that I had a prejudice to because growing up, and in my family, I did have a little exposure to home building. I always felt that, from that exposure, that it was a seasonal type of industry. Because of my exposure, it was more on the trade side, drywallers and painters. And so I saw those husbands at home. I saw the trucks parked across the street. And I would hear the stories over the kitchen table that so-and-so wasn't working. And I was a early 30s father, and we were expecting our daughter within months. And so the thought of embarking on a new path and a new career path was concerning, but I'm an immigrant. My parents, my father, my mother, at a very late age, decided to come to the United States, and the challenge has never been something that I've shied away from. So I decided to embark on that journey, and I joined Summerhill Homes in 2005 in the customer care department, and it was an absolute amazing experience. Was there for quite a few years. The construction side of things definitely piqued my interest after the customer care experience. The customer care experience, what that did for me, really, it was obviously the first foray into home building. It showed me that seasonality. We build year round. I definitely know that right now. You're putting foundations in the ground regardless of Mother Nature. So that was quickly squashed. But what that did for me was it checked a box that's really important to me, whether it's volunteer work or just that intrinsic need to help others. I found myself in homeowners' living rooms and bedrooms, and whether it's during normal business hours or at 8 or 9 o'clock at night when they were cooking their meals, I got to see and experience all of those things, and it really tickled that in my brain, that connection to my fellow human being. I really enjoyed that aspect of things. So as that began to satisfy that for me and that purpose for me, I also began to look for improvement, which is also another basic need for me as an individual. What drives me to grow, and look to the construction side. And I ventured out and asked what it would take, and I took it upon myself. I'm fortunate enough to have a brother-in-law who's an architect, and so I leaned on him as far as that knowledge base. I took it upon myself to learn how to read plans on my own, and was able to parlay that into a superintendent's role at Summerhill Homes. Unfortunately, the downturn occurred in 2008, 2009, and I had to pivot. And when I pivoted, I went back. It was an opportunity, and I saw that as that's what I saw it as, an opportunity. It was a setback, but it was an opportunity for me to go into a field that I had always dreamed of as a kid, as a boy, and that was the medical profession. Again, it was helping others. So I enlisted or enrolled in an accelerated program to become a surgical tech and be in the operating room. I had always wanted to be a doctor. And so, early 30 something, I know that everybody posts and says that it's never too late, but I, at the time, was a father of 3 and a family to support, and didn't feel that going through a doctorate would be appropriate at this time. So this is the course or the path that I decided to go down, did that. And what that did was gave me perspective. And I found myself in an operating room about approximately 18 months later, holding a beating heart and assisting on transplants in an externship and assisting on numerous procedures. I did that for a few years. Unfortunately, at the time, the downturn, and it was, quite a few of us experienced that. It required me to do quite a few things, including moving out of the area and leaving my family behind, moving down to Southern California. And it was a little unstable. So during this time, from the relationships I had built during my initial entry into home building, a subcontractor had reached out to me and said, there's an opportunity once things started picking back up. And it was an opportunity with Tri-Point Homes in 2015. And it wasn't in construction, although a few things were out there in construction. It was this passion for helping others. And that passion really was at the very end of the line, and that's in customer care. And so I took that opportunity, and Tri-Point Homes gave me that opportunity, which was fantastic, and worked with some amazing people there, and did that for quite a while. Cut my teeth even further there for a few years, and felt that I had what I needed to create a department in my vision. From scratch. I'm a very analytical person who likes to look at things from kind of a macro view initially and micro view. And so Landsea Homes is where it came on the scene as kind of a startup, being able to take things on in my vision. And the opportunity presented itself, and I did so, and came over to Landsea Homes. And once I did, the opportunity there of growing the department and moving into the construction field and overseeing that, eventually overseeing that, and really starting from the ground up and working all the way back, and eventually, hopefully, as ambitious as I am, all the way back to land.
Well, look at that. Luis, I gotta just admit, if I could summarize that whole portion of just how did you get there, it always starts with helping others. With that initial starting in customer care, getting to truly visualize and see the finished product that is home building, the people that are going to be living in it, how they're going to be spending their life there, all the way through healthcare, all the way back into home building. That is who you are. You help others, and seeing you do that now over at Landsea, I'm just glad to have the conversation with you and hear the story. So, Luis, second question for you. What was the most inspirational moment that has shaped your career path?
It's kind of like those top 10 lists. It's always hard to put one at the very top, right? And I know that others have identified those parental figures, and I'm not unique when I say this. There's a moment in time in my life that I recall a story that my father shared with me. My father, I wasn't born in the United States. My father was a janitor, and they changed that title numerous times. He, at the time of his retirement, he was an environmental specialist. And that's what we like to do, right? We like to change titles and elevate folks, but he never partook in that activity. He always said, "I'm a janitor," a humble man, and he always appreciated the recognition and validation for the job that he did. There was a time, I don't quite recall how old I was, but the company had experienced various changes in ownership, and he would every day take his lunch to work. I remember the lunch pail, and he would every day take his lunch to work, to the cafeteria, and sit there and have his lunch. And during this ownership or this administration, I remember him telling me, and he would often tell me stories of work, and not in a negative way, and in my boss is this, or my coworker is, those daily things that we all face. The story that he explained to me was, or that he communicated to me was, the CEO flew into town, and he flew into town. He came into the cafeteria and he sat down and he had lunch with me. And he just asked how I was doing, a couple of questions, sincere, and we just ate lunch. And he treated me like a human being. It was not only the story that my father shared with me, it was me as his son experiencing my father's behavior at home that made an impact on me. It was how he behaved because of his work-life balance. And I saw how leadership can impact everything. It was how he was treated. And that CEO came back on numerous return trips and remembered my father's name. And that's something that transcends work. That is something that just goes beyond that line. And at the time, I didn't realize it, but I do now. As I've gotten older, I kind of made a decision that that's how I want to be remembered. That's how I want to be known, as not Luis as the VP of Ops, as a man, as a human being. And I decided that no matter what career path, no matter how many lemons life gives me, I want to, whatever profession I'm in, I want to behave that way. And I want to be that person. That was very inspirational to me and very transformative.
Very nice. Well, I appreciate you sharing that story. Luis, final question for you, the theme behind the whole show. We've kind of touched on it before. Why do you do what you do?
It's kind of tied into everything that I just kind of shared. I mean, I'm very analytical. In school, math was one of those things that I didn't like, but I loved. And the part of math that I loved was something that a lot of people run from, and it was the word problem. It's funny because home building is one of those things that is the ultimate word problem. Every day we face the you have the obligatory train is coming from Savannah, Georgia with carpet, and it's 10 days late, and you have PG&E delivering your meters 5 days late, and they're arriving in the middle, and you have your division president standing outside your office with a coffee cup staring at you, expecting that delivery, and a homeowner out here. Which one is irrelevant, right? So, obviously we all know there's always the irrelevant quotient in that, where you're like, yeah, that gets thrown out. In this equation, it's the division president that you throw out. I'm kidding. Sorry, Josh, I'm kidding. But it's identifying the process, understanding where your pull rope, push rope, where that block is, really looking at it from a macro view and understanding where it's at. My analytical mind appreciates that, looks for the improvement, and I absolutely love that. That in conjunction with that need, that desire, that purpose to check the box of helping others. whether it was home building or the medical profession, this need, or my volunteer work, there's this need for me personally to help others. And it didn't work out in the medical profession, but I found a home in home building. And, you know, you and I discussed earlier, what more, I mean, home building is at the pinnacle of, for me personally, as far as how I see it, it's a basic need. It's a basic need for everyone. Safety and shelter. Every one of our phones has home on it. We look at our apps and we say, take me home. And whether it's Landsea or any other builder, we are responsible for creating that, delivering that to our homeowners, and being responsible for at least a small part of that, helping all of the other individuals, leading them in our own way, and in the way that I personally have, you know, from my father and what I've taken, what I believe is the way that I want to carry myself, is for me just absolute fulfillment. It's a purpose that will carry me as long as I believe I need it to. And I'm absolutely just honored to work with all of these people and all the individuals that I do. And there's so many individuals that have helped me along the way here. It's just it's been an amazing ride. And I couldn't be more thankful.
Well, fantastic, Luis. You know, I love just hearing people's why, how they got there, how does it all break down, what does it kind of culminate to, and ultimately yours. You know, I love the word responsibility, because as home builders, as architects, engineers, we have responsibilities to our future occupants, our future home buyers, the people that are going to be living in these homes. And it's something that everybody that I have interviewed, no matter where they work, no matter what their profession, no matter what their trade is, it's what everybody holds near and dear to themselves. So it's a pleasure to interview you. It's a pleasure to hear more about Landsea and yourself. Can't wait to share your story.
Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate your time, and glad to share my story with you and everyone else.
Thanks again, Luis. All right, have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. And that concludes our 18th episode. I'm your host, Mark Sherlock, and always remember, why you do what you do.